Chicago Bay Area. It's time for Zig in the Zone with Ralph Zig Tycho.
Oh, wow, what a nice introduction. And thank you, Paulie B, for putting all this together.
Oh, no problem, Ziggy. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm an old guy, but it doesn't matter because I reached my life expectancy, and I feel like all this is gravy. And all I've got to do is worship my memories, nurture my memories, and keep adding to them. And one of the things that I love doing is this very podcast because I talk to folks who I've known upwards of 6 or 7 years on the Comfortably Zoned radio network, and it's become a video network as well. We do video once a week on Tuesdays, and we stream live on Facebook and on YouTube, and I'm loving it. So again, I have to thank Paulie for putting it all together.
Oh, I couldn't do it without you. It would just be in the zone. It just wouldn't be Zig in the Zone.
Well, I've always suggested that as long as there's a zone somewhere,
it's always zone o'clock somewhere.
I know. All right, this is no baseball talk, no ganj talk today. We're going to talk life.
Wait, hold on. If we don't talk about baseball or ganjo, oh yeah, there's only life. Okay.
There's only life. It's Ganj is a microcosm of life, as is baseball. So, quick note on baseball before we start. Alonso signed with the men.
All right, so somebody owes me $1.
Wow. What's that?
Somebody owes me $1 because he signed.
Oh, yeah. All right. In any event, I'm very happy about that. So let me introduce my guests because they're going to talk life. And we are involved in a takeover of democracy. And I, for the first time yesterday, felt good vibes about what judges are going to do to control this guy. And there was a big ruling. He can't just go around firing people like that and all this shit. A lot of it is just to show his power. He's not going to be able to do that. And all this is going to catch up with him. And I'll tell you why he's not going to be able to do that. The people who, Congress, senators, congressmen, they need re-election. And they're coming to the point where inflation hasn't gotten any better, it's gotten worse. The lies are coming out. And if these people want to be re-elected, they're going to have to get off Trump's bandwagon. And I also wanted to lead the segment and the show by saying it isn't just Trump that's our problems. It's the unholy trinity. And that is, my definition, it's big business, religion, organized religion, and government. And the three of them combine to make our lives miserable. And I could cite a lifetime's worth of proof on that, but I won't. But we got to take care of Trump first. So I'm going to start with you, Matthew DeBias, returning to our microphones. Uh, first time in a while.
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, 6
But
months.
between that, you and I did a Willie Mays story.
That beautiful one it was too, saying goodbye to
It was absolutely the highlight, or one of the highlights of
Yeah.
my podcasting career.
Yeah.
It's on your network, Spotify. If you go to Spotify and punch in my name and Willie Mays' name, he played a little bit of a part in this too. You'll find it, but
Yeah.
it's a great one. Now let me go to Jerry Feidelberg, the recovering Jerry Feidelberg. You've been down for a while, and you did a show with us a couple of weeks ago, and you haven't lost the beat in terms of your mental stuff. And it turns out you're recovering, actually. Tell us about that.
Well, after I did the show, as you know, that I was diagnosed with an AFib a few months ago, and I had my AFib under control, and then all of a sudden it shot up, and I was walking in the house, and I was just going to turn on the light when I took a bad fall, hit my head against the wall, had several lacerations, ended up in the hospital. Fortunately, I was only in the hospital for one night, and but I had 2 weeks of AFib where it was out of control, and now it's back under control, and it's been under control for over a couple of weeks now. I'm doing.
What did they do? What did they do to put it under control?
They didn't do anything. They made one small minor change in my medication. And instead of taking a half a pill twice a day, I take the one pill in the morning, and it seems to work. And you got to drink a lot of water. You got to take your medications. You got to check I got to check my weight every day. But this has been it's been quite a journey.
It's been since April of last year.
Since April of last year, my life has been like a beaver colony, one damn thing after the next. So once I've had a series of illnesses, and the most surprising thing is when the AFib developed, they referred me. I saw my PCP, and then they referred me to a cardiologist over at Stanford and Emeryville. And they did an echocardiogram, and the technician said, "When did you have your heart attack?" And I said, "What heart attack? I never had a heart attack." He says, "No, you had a heart attack." And I had what is known as a silent heart attack. And so that's part of the problem. And but I'm recovering from that. I'm doing okay. I'm still using a walker, but I'm getting stronger every day again. And just trying to do the best I can. I feel pretty good right now.
Amen.
Keep that way.
A silent heart attack. That's scary.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. Did you notice a change after? You don't know when it was.
I have no idea when it occurred.
Wow.
Gee.
Wow.
Gee. Scary.
All right. Let's get off the medical part of this show. Comfortably
Medical's going to be part of it, because when we get into it, we will talk about what they want to do with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and what they're planning to do.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's going to come down to this guy doesn't have the power to fuck with the people, our money. They can't do that. Judges will deny it. And that's what's going to save us. Federal judges, not the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will be shamed into enforcing what these judges decide. And that's my guess. Here, it's not possible that this can go on. Matthew, do you agree?
Well, I love you, Ralph. I wish I had your optimism, but the problem is when they gave that immunity ruling, they basically crossed the Rubicon. They sold their souls. I mean, I applaud this lower district court judges making their injunctions and their TROs. I mean, they're literally putting their lives on the line, putting these injunctions out. Because if democracy is truly overthrown, there will be payback, and they will probably be brutally purged. But it all comes down to the Supreme Court, and the fact that they gave him immunity last year out of whole cloth with no justifiable constitutional precedent. I'm pessimistic on that score. I have a bad feeling that no matter how ridiculous it is, they will enable this purging of government, the eradication of whatever, Obamacare, Medicare, Medicaid, aid to states. I have a bad feeling. I mean, because like Alito and Thomas, their wives were co-conspirators to January 6th. I mean, they're secretly in sympathy. I wish I had your optimism, Ralph, and I love you, but I've got bad feelings about it when it finally comes down to the Supreme Court. I mean, I'm very pessimistic personally. That's the way I see it, because you think it can't get worse, and ever since 10 years ago he joined the race, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and it feels like 1933 all over again.
Yeah. And I have to say, Matthew, you were the one that first got me to see that this man is Hitler Jr.
Yeah, absolutely.
And whenever in the past, whenever somebody made a comparison, this guy's Hitler, this guy, my grandmother, before I knew her, before I was born, was killed by Hitler. So, not personally, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I discounted what you said initially. I said, well, this will be good drama. This was 2016 for sure, but Hillary wasn't that great, and we didn't know how bad he was, and you quickly pointed it out to me, and it took me a while for it to get through.
Yeah.
The man's dangerous, no question.
Oh, yeah, and they believe him, they worship him.
It's not so much that, for me, it's not so much that 55% of these folks voted for him. It's the 44% that were eligible to vote that didn't vote. What the hell is the matter with people? Did these people ever take a civics course and picture this country without? It would be a civil war without democracy. The people aren't going to stand for it. They're not going to just calmly stand by while the country's taken over.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Jack. Go.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only remedy that you can do to get rid of him is impeachment, and they have the Republicans are in control of the Congress, and that's not going to happen. The only other remedy is if he should die from natural causes.
That would be terrible.
But we don't know if that's going to happen either. Eventually he will, but right now we have to suffer for it. The last 22 days have been total insanity. This is all the Project 2025. They laid out what they were going to do in 900 pages.
And people still voted for the fucker.
They're doing it, and they brought in Elon Musk with his whatever department he is. It's not been authorized by Congress. He hasn't been. He's not a. Is he a government employee or is he volunteer? What is he? And he's a private citizen going through the Treasury Department and getting all this information on payment systems. It's insanity. And
if he were doing this kind of stuff 10 years ago, he'd be arrested for treason.
Well, actually, what you're seeing is treason right here now. I mean, Jared and I had a telephone conversation about a couple hours ago, and I was telling him what you're literally seeing in real time is imagine if there were cameras on Benedict Arnold as he was undermining the defenses of West Point during the American Revolution. What you're seeing here is a deliberate deconstruction of effective government. In other words, you're taking away quality personnel in key agencies here, and what you're doing is weakening our ability to respond either to an international crisis or a significant domestic crisis, because you're destroying qualified government workers who are trained with experience to deal with those issues there. Who can deal with it effectively there. If you're going to destroy a nation, that's what you do. You take away those people who actually get the job done, who do it efficiently and effectively, and you basically leave us wide open to either an external threat or an internal threat. Here, you're either making foreign conquest or internal subversion possible here, and future Nazification.
How about airplanes crashing as a result of all this bullshit?
He blamed it on DEI for the air traffic. What if DEI had nothing to do with the airplane crash in Washington D.C.?
Yeah.
There was another one in Arizona yesterday.
Yeah. There was one 2.3 miles south of where I live, fellas.
Yeah, I remember that.
I didn't even hear the thing. I did not even hear the crash or even the siren. I mean, I was at home working on my baseball book, and I did not hear it either. I'm so totally focused in. That's kind of scary when you think about it. I mean, that thing ordered in with a full tank of gas 2.3 miles south of me in a rainstorm, but I didn't hear the explosion. It was insane. I was on the phone with someone, and someone asked, Matt, what about that plane crash? I said, what plane crash? And I turned on and it was like, what? Seriously.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
What do you see as an outcome? I'll ask Jerry first to all this. You're not Nostradamus, but how do you see it all coming down?
It's hard to say. And we have to, our only hope is the courts. These judges, as Matt said earlier, are putting their lives on their line by issuing these TROs, and eventually will have permanent restraining orders against them for violating the Constitution. Everyone. When I was in the Army and you were in the Air Force, we took oaths to defend the Constitution from all enemies, internal, both domestic and foreign. And we were serious about that. Our loyalty was to the Constitution. It didn't matter who the president was. Eisenhower was president when I went into the military, and John Kennedy had been elected, was president-elect. So I served under two presidents, and then when I was in the reserve, and after Kennedy was assassinated, I served under Lyndon Johnson. And so it didn't matter who the president was. Our loyalty and the loyalty of all the people in government is to the Constitution. And that's what's being massacred right now, is the Constitution. And it's the Constitution is what makes us which makes us the reality that we were special, we were different because we had a constitution. We did not have a leader who was a king and who just gave out decrees or diktats or whatever it was. We don't. Our president is not a dictator. He has limitations, and we have three equal branches of government. Equal branches of government, and there are restraints on the president, and the legislature has oversight of the president. So he can't do. I know he's doing what he wants to do right now, and he believes that immunity, that he can't be held liable because of what the Supreme Court does. He's run amok, and his minions and his henchmen who have done all these things, they have all these executive orders written. He didn't write them, but they're part and parcel of the situation. Russell Vought, Vought, who's the now Office of Management and Budget. He was the guy that wrote Project 2025. So they're putting these people in positions of power that they shouldn't be in, that they're not qualified for. Kash Patel is not qualified to be the director of the FBI. It's plain and simple. The guy that
Is he getting approval?
Secretary of Defense. He was a TV broadcaster. He does not know defense, the defense contract. It's unbelievable to manage the Department of Defense, the unqualified person. So it just goes down and down and down because Trump does not want people to tell him he's wrong. He had that problem with when he had the people who had competence, and they would tell him, "No, you can't do this," and he doesn't want people doing it.
Okay, hey, let me hear Paulie's voice a little bit. What do you think about this?
Well, and believe it or not, I'm not the dog in the background.
No, our dog was just
I believe you if you think so.
I don't believe you believe me. I don't believe it at all. Here, let me take away this. What do I think about this? So, I think we were all hoping that Trump was going to do what he did last term, which was not come in prepared. Last time he actually started off his presidency and he's like, wait, why is everybody leaving? No, because you have to appoint people to those cabinet spaces. Those are actually from the previous administration and they stay in place unless you switch them out. And so he was running like at half staff. joke, pun intended. He was running at half staff last time because he didn't realize he had to do this. Now, people have been putting it in his ears for the last year. When you get in office, you need to start putting your own people in these places of power. You need to start signing executive orders. And his thought of an executive order is, if I write it and I sign it, it's the law of the land. It's not. We still have a democracy that's about checks and balances. Thank goodness for that. Because otherwise, all those things he did in the first couple of weeks and he's continuously doing now would just go away. Like USAID, like the different people that he's put into different cabinet posts, including the guy that's running the Pentagon. All I see is him doing all these different videos. He's all tatted up. He's drinking like bottles of champagne and hot tubs and partying hard. And it's like, wait, this is the guy that's got, another finger on the nuclear football, that's going to be dispatching troops around the world, that's going to be in charge of stuff. And then Kash Patel is somebody he looks crazy, by the way. He has that wild eyes, and anyway. So, without getting about personal thing, he's non-qualified. None of these people are qualified. RFK in control of the Health Council. Now they're talking about all the bird flu that's coming in, or the avian flu that's happening, that's actually starting to mutate or whatever it does when it goes from animal to human. Uh,
How
we have
about
so many
no
people. We
research?
have so many people. That was his thing. I'm going to put the people that know the most about these things in charge. None of these people do. Even Elon, my neighbor, Elon Musk here with Twitter. Why would you put him in the Department of Government Efficiency? It should be, those should be the Department of Government Errors. All they're doing is cutting aid to a lot of things.
Cut off
They're cutting aid to things
for
and stuff.
cancer.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Why would you cut off research for cancer?
Right.
How can they justify that?
Well, and they said they're not cutting it off. Just like Meals on Wheels. They're pausing. They're hitting the pause button. They say they're hitting the pause button. But they said this will not affect the end users. These will not, like for Meals on Wheels, this apparently will not affect the people that are getting the meals. Well, how's that possible? You know, even Reagan taught us about trickle-down economics. You take away from the top, it's going to affect the bottom. And so here's the thing, is that even with Meals on Wheels, I heard a statement from them that they're going to actually have to have their staffing has like been cut in half because of this pause, because they're having to still go on, but they're having less people prepare meals, less people delivering meals. They're having their staff destroy meals that have already been made because they go bad so quick. And so a lot of their stuff is being sourced for basically just getting rid of food. Where I would be delivering those meals as quick as possible. I'd be giving people on Meals on Wheels two weeks worth of food instead of one, because you don't know when the next meal's coming. So
right.
So yeah, so all this is very, very scary, and it's playing with people's lives.
Person waiting for those meals. It's an hungry elderly person waiting for those meals. Does that sink into people? Why don't people? We can't have this happen. This is America. We can't have people deported. People that keep the price of our food down, working jobs that you and I wouldn't work. And let's go deport these people. Where's the outrage?
Where was the outrage 90 years ago when they were rounding up the Jews? Where was it? Right.
It wasn't in America either. You know how long it took Franklin Roosevelt to get into that war, where he knew Jews were being killed? Jews were being turned back by Joseph Kennedy when he was ambassador to England and shit. It's not something that's new. We must remember that this country, 200 some odd years old, was formed by imperialists and slave owners. So we shouldn't be all that surprised, but we should be making more plans if it's going to play out the way Trump has it planned. We can't accept that. There's got to be a revolution. And it doesn't have to be with guns. It could be an economic revolution.
What's happening in California, and I'm sure in other places, we have a large population of people that do the picking of the fruits and the vegetables. And because of the roundup of the ICE coming in looking for illegal aliens, these people are not showing up for work, which means that the farmers cannot get their vegetables and their fruits picked, and they will rot on the vine. And when that happens, there's less uh, fruit available, less vegetables available, and it's supply and demand. And if there's less supply and high demand, the prices will go up.
So the farmers and these big conglomerates don't really care if they sell to the people or rot on the vine. They're going to make money. And where does that fit in with keeping the costs down, inflation, and what have you?
Well, the farmers are having another problem is because when under Joe Biden, they passed an infrastructure bill called I forgot it was, some sort of reduction act, Inflation Reduction Act, or whatever it was. And they entered into contracts where they were going to improve I guess it was more energy efficient farms, and they were buying equipment and what have you, and those payments to the farmers were frozen, and now they're holding the bag, and they have contracts that they sign to buy equipment, and suppliers want to get paid, and they have to pay out of their pocket, and some people don't have the money to do it. It's just tragic. So you've got that going on. The freeze, we haven't gotten to what they want to really do is to reduce payments to senior citizens who are on Social Security. They want to.
How could they do that? That's me. How could they do that? That's an entitlement.
They're trying to do that, and
that will never happen. That will never happen.
Because the seniors vote, and they'll throw these guys out, but you got to wait 2 years before we get to that point.
I don't even know if there's going to be midterm, because if things start collapsing, this is one of my predictions. We haven't even heard his budgetary proposals yet. I mean, if he's going to do a massive tax cut combined with these tariffs, it wouldn't surprise me that sometime next year it starts the boomerang effect and it starts blowing up in our faces, combined with massive deregulation. It would be like 2007 all over again. But there's a real blowback, and the economy's really tanking and prices are skyrocketing. Plus, you're depriving Medicare and all that. Trump's not going to allow elections. My prediction is he will do a massive crackdown. And basically, it's like with Mao and Stalin, when Stalin's 5-year plan failed, that's when he began the massive purges of 35 to 38. And when Mao's Great Leap Forward blew up in his face, that's when he began the massive purges of the Cultural Revolution. I predict he would do a massive crackdown, cancel all elections, declare martial law, and they do like General Flynn told him to, in 2020, seize all the ballot boxes, basically saying, oh, there's a great emergency, there's a conspiracy, that's why my plans are failing, because there's this liberal conspiracy, so we got to round up all the liberals, and the prisons begin to fill, the streets run red with innocent blood, and they start killing everyone. They oust, they arrest all the Democrats, and anyone who opposes, they just start rounding them up. That's my prediction, the way I see it, because that's how fascists operate anyway. When there's a disaster, they just start killing, and they just start cracking down and more killing. That's the way I envision it in some ways. That's my vision of it.
Well, Paulie, what say you, Paulie?
It's all a mess. I think he did exactly what he said he was going to do. I think he said he was going to be the big disruptor. Boy, if our government wasn't already fucked up. Now, don't get me wrong. We have the best. We're in the best country in the world. In a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, we are not.
No question.
And we're constantly being reminded of education, healthcare, even in this case, USAID. We should be helping our own before we help others. We shouldn't leave people in the middle of, New Orleans, without water. We shouldn't be leaving, even our country during a pandemic without, you have to take like a third mortgage out on your house to get a carton of eggs at this point. He said that's what he ran on. I'm going to bring inflation down. I heard the guy that's doing that's looking at inflation. He goes, yeah, we're not going to do anything right now. Our country's so unstable. We're looking at another depression. We are literally looking at our country to go belly up and bankrupt.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
if he keeps going about the way he's going to do it, he's going to break our country in a lot of ways. And it's going to take 2 or 3 administrations just to get it back to Biden era. Biden era. Hold on. Biden era? Wasn't he just president a month ago? It's going to take us years to get back to Biden era.
Yeah.
Yuck.
They shut down USAID, which
Right.
was distributing medicines to prevent the spread of AIDS. They controlled Ebola. They did a lot of good things. And so they came up with this thing. It was waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, where's the fraud? They never showed one shred of evidence that there was fraud. And so they're worried about spending all this money on foreign aid. And then he comes up with this idea to buy Gaza and create a Riviera of the Middle East. and not let the 2 million people who lived in Gaza return to their homes. And where are they going to go? They can't go to Egypt. They can't go to Jordan. And the other Arab countries don't want to take them in. So you're going to create more terrorists. Maybe they'll go to Afghanistan, become terrorists, and do evil stuff. But instead of finding a solution, then he says this morning that if there's a ceasefire ends on Saturday, I guess
I read that. Yeah.
they're gonna make life even more miserable for them than they could ever imagine.
Benji is another Trump. What about that?
They lost 50,000 people from Netanyahu. And Netanyahu he's ready to pull the trigger again on Saturday as soon as the ceasefire ends. The Hamas will never agree to a settlement with Israel.
Well, the problem is Iran is funding it all. So we need to take out Iran's nukes and start from there.
They're never going to be honest with that.
Yeah.
I don't think they're ever going to be honest with that. That's why, even the UN and stuff.
I'm sure the Israelis know where the nukes are. They were able to assassinate people in Iran that they never thought was possible.
Yeah. The thing is getting access to the facilities, though. I mean, they got, if I recall correctly, scattered and underground and reinforced and all that. You would have to do a massive grand plan operation just to get access to those things, just to destroy the physical plant, as it were. Thing is, though, you could destroy the physical plant, but always the mental knowledge, though, it's there. And like, wants to let the genie out. There's no really stopping it if you set your mind to it. It's just a question of physical materials to create a program and all that. That's the problem.
Right. And how much is Trump in bed with Iran?
Who knows?
Remember, Iranians are aligned with Putin too. He's got their back too. That's a bigger problem. If you take out Iran, then you have to deal with the Russians too. And then what can happen is you have literally Armageddon in World War III. No matter how you slice it or dice it becomes World War III.
He really admires dictators.
Yeah.
He admires dictators, and we know why he admires dictators, right?
Because he wants to. Yeah.
He wants to be one because he wants to stay in power. He wants to. He's already doing a lot of dictator type stuff. So, in the side of a tragedy, like these airplane crashes and mass shootings and stuff, and all these other things, the fires in California. I kind of think that the president has always been kind of a figurehead. He hasn't had that much control and power over things, but we've noticed over the last few weeks the president does have a lot of control over things that we didn't realize. But one thing that I've always looked to for in our US presidents is to keep things calm, to not politicize things, and in the sight of these tragedies, try to at least throw comfort to the families, to the people affected, not throw shade to the other side. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, again, like the plane tragedies, like the fires in California. He's blaming stuff on DEI. He's blaming things on deforestation. There's a lot of things that can be done, like the fires in LA. There's a lot of shit that should have been done, and it should have been done way before fire season. They had 14 months to get the levee or whatever, or not the levee, but the one water supply up and running. They had time to do a lot of stuff, but what they did is they sat on their laurels for 14 months and let shit go down. And of course, when you have great rain, you get a great growth. And when it starts drying out, you don't get any rain for a long time. That growth turns into a fire hazard. And we've known things about this country in infrastructure. We keep paying taxes for things like roads, yet every time I go down the road, I blow a tire because there's potholes in the middle of 101 the size of a tire. The bridges, everything, nothing gets repaired, but yet they keep taking taxes from us. And so please take my taxes and spend them on what you told me you were going to, which is infrastructure. Stop taking these little small towns and turning them into metropolises with the same kind of electrical infrastructure, sewer infrastructure, getting in and out of a city. I know a city here on the peninsula that has grown in size, almost doubled in size, yet the access to and from it is only two roads. It's basically an island almost. And there's two roads that get you in and out of there. But if there's an emergency, they're done because it's so densely populated now. They're stuck.
Yeah.
And so if you can't build growing this way, you have to go up. And so, wow, lots of money being had by these cities. Nobody's taking responsibility. And when you add Trump into the mix and his cronies, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and
Hey, I want to know how we're doing time-wise.
The year is 2025. I'm sorry.
Oh,
We still have 4 more years of this shit. Oh, wait, that's not what you meant. We're 44 minutes in, sir.
44?
You were 44 minutes in. We're about 15 more minutes away.
Okay, I just wanted to, if I did nothing else on this show, is to get the three of you together for this conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, doing a podcast basically for me is recreational. Talk baseball, talk guns, talk a little life. This is some serious shit. And I'm glad to be able to moderate three guys who tell it like it is, as Howard would have said.
Yep.
So I wanted to thank the three of you and start with Jerry to take us out. Take as long as you want. Say it all. Say what's on your mind. More, you've done that. More so. We've got some time.
well, here you have a man who promised a lot of people he was going to stop inflation, and all he's doing is increasing inflation with these tariffs. He doesn't understand what a tariff is. It's a tax. Yes, it is a tax. And when the goods come in from the other country, and he puts a 25% tariff on it. For example, if you're buying a car and it's a $50,000 car and you get a 25% tariff, you're paying another $12,000 in tax. the country that's sending the goods in, they don't pay it. The American citizens pay it. The other thing he did too was that the Biden administration negotiated with the drug manufacturers to cap a price on insulin. I think it was $45 a month for insulin, and it was just for the Medicare people. They wanted to extend it to everyone. Well, not only did he not extend it to everyone, he did away with the negotiated price, and now people who are on insulin, seniors who are on insulin, have to pay $400 for their insulin for a month. That's a death sentence for a lot of people. They have to choose between using
cat food, insulin or cat food.
Or something like that. Now they're talking about tariffs on steel and aluminum. A lot of that comes from Canada and Mexico. We've got a temporary 30-day stay on imposing the tariffs. But supposing you're building a new ballpark in Las Vegas, as Mr. Fisher is doing, already it's gone from 1.5 million to 1.7 million, and now you're going to have a tariff on steel and aluminum, and those are how much of the steel and aluminum they use in building a new ballpark. The costs are going to probably go up to $2.5 billion. Will Fisher have the money to do it? He's a rich man, but those are huge costs to absorb. And so these things that he has in his mind that he thinks he's right and he's imposing on the people, it's only costing us more money. And the people who voted for him are becoming his victims. They thought he was going to help them, and instead he's hurting them. And it's unfortunate that you can't have a do-over in the election, because if the election were held today, I'm pretty sure he would not win.
Hey, by the way, people who will sell their daughters' rights to their own body for a carton of eggs with the promise of cheaper eggs are schmucks. You voted for him. A lot of you people, if you're listening to this, I gotta tell you, we called it. Jerry and I, Matthew and I, Paulie and I, all on very many interactions and shows, called this shit. And if I could be in on calling this shit and knowing what's happening, if you're not listening, you really are a schmuck. What can I tell you? Because the people that I get to guess are the most knowledgeable people in the world. And certainly on this subject, you didn't listen. 55% of you didn't listen. Now, there is the possibility that it was all fixed through computers. Elon Musk or whatever. That's another thing. But I'll see that when I believe it. I believe right now that 55% of you, and like I said, the 44% that didn't turn out to vote. What is America thinking?
Or not.
Or nothing. Matthew, take us out from your standpoint.
A couple hours ago, Jerry and I had our own private little conversation, and I proposed this little idea in the form of resistance. Why not a liberal concession? In other words, those liberal states, like California, Pennsylvania, governor. Remember, during 5 years ago when COVID broke out and the federal government was slow to respond, you had Governor Cuomo of New York reaching out to other states, networking with them, coordinating the response, sharing knowledge and information, how to contain COVID, how to deal with it and all that, before finding the government, quote unquote, started intervening and all that. I would argue the same way. I would argue for blue states like California, Pennsylvania, or whatever blue states are remaining, start networking. In other words, like a political succession. In other words, we will not allow the United agents to deport people. We will not allow you to not supply or deprive people of any children. In other words, we break away a form of resistance. Basically, secession. And we create our own little thing. In other words, we'll create our own America here where the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are still in full force, and rights for all people are guaranteed, and women's rights, and in other words, basically, yeah, frankly, because you always notice when during democratic regimes, you would have these southern states going, oh, we're threatening to, we don't want to give equal rights to black people or the LGBTQ plus community or whomever and all that. They always threaten to say, let's do a liberal secession, as it were. Let's break away. Let's network with blue states. And basically, because these blue states are subsidizing the poverty of the red states. Okay, let's take away the blue states. Let's see how much the Trump regime survives without us contributing our taxpayer dollars or whatever to your reign of terror, as it were. That would be my recommendation, as it were. What do you think, fellas?
Oh, I agree 100% with that.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah. That's my solution. In other words, we're not going to allow you to not defy us. We're breaking away. We'll create our own America, and we will uphold the equal rights and give an equal rights and all full reproductive rights to women, and all citizens are safe and equal and safe.
And that's not just for women, that's for men too.
Everyone. Yeah. Freedom of religion. In other words, no more persecution of faith. No more persecution of gender there. No more Nazi indoctrination of children. Because I figured they're going to get rid of the Department of Education. I think they're going to start imposing fascist indoctrination starting from pre-K to 12, just like the Nazis did. And, fostering a genocide.
Well, it's just basically indoctrination can be construed as what the Catholic Church is doing. So I might say, to add to what you're thinking of doing, how about we tax organized religion once and for all?
Especially the mega churches, yeah.
Oh, especially, but the ones who aren't helping the poor, taking the poor in, and the mega churches don't do that. I mean, there's homeless and shit. Gotta tax the churches, put them out of business, let people pray anywhere they want, but take money out of it.
That or the amount of land that churches own in this country, we could probably literally house all the unhoused.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
10 times over.
Alameda has a great amount of property owned by St. Joseph's Church and whatever. Good example. And the property is in a prime place to what they call the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
So I'm just speaking. You're absolutely right. You got to get rid of the church, and you got to stop the corporate greed.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, how much money do you need in life? How about the people that are in that high, making billions of dollars, giving back? Fuck you, Ronald Reagan. You screwed it up for the world, and that will not be changed because we have a bunch of people who benefited from Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. Corporate fascist.
Where is the corporate heart?
There never was. It never existed. What was it, Balzac said, behind every great fortune, there was probably a great crime behind it.
Oh yeah, you just said organized religion is like organized crime.
Oh, no question. And we haven't even touched, if you'll excuse the expression, the real.
I know where you're going with that, preacher.
I know you do. because with you, I'm preaching to the choir. With Feidelberg, I'm preaching to the choir. With D. Baez, I'm preaching to the choir. But guess what? The choir is not out there on the internet. You get what you get, and we're gonna at least make some people think. And it ain't all baseball, it ain't all God's, but I'm smoking over God's for you. This was a terrific show.
Love you guys. Miss you guys. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's do it again 6 months from now. Let's do it again.
You know, you're talking about big business. We had something called the Sherman Antitrust Act that was passed many, many years ago. And Teddy Roosevelt did enforce it. The problem is how they view competition. And the corporate raiders are partly responsible for what's happening with big business and having, these companies. A lot of them were doing very well, and it didn't really matter to them. Back in the 60s and 70s, they were doing well, and but the raiders could come in, and if these companies weren't performing, they could take over the company, and the founders would be thrown out of their business. And so, as a result of that, these companies got leaner and meaner, and as a result, they've got bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's less competition, and that's why we have oligarchs like Elon Musk and people like him, Jeff Bezos. I mean, they have even the guy that runs Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. They've got more money than they could ever dream. These guys, I don't know how much money Musk has. They estimated about $200 billion. He'll never spend it in his lifetime.
And he pays no taxes.
He's a foreigner.
Taxes. And so they become richer and richer, and they buy more companies, and then there's less competition. And as the late Joe Alioto used to tell me many times, I would have no trouble convincing a jury that the more competitors you have, the more competition you have. The less competitors, the less competition you have. It's very simple. And that's why, I was telling Matt this morning that when we filed suit against the drug manufacturers back in the 90s, and when we eventually settled, we got the largest private, not governmental settlement against antitrust settlement in American history. It was over $725 million that was distributed to 40,000 pharmacies. And so, yeah, it just shows you, to give you an idea of how much money they were making. One company settled for over $50 million. And you know how long it took them to make the money back? 4 days. They made $50 million back then. It was like coffee money to them.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the movie Rollerball with James Caan. The premise, it was a sci-fi thing. It came out in the mid-early 70s. The premise was countries no longer exist, and you have total corporate monopolization of all precious resources: food, oil, energy, IT, banking, absolutely essential thing. Total corporate monopolization, and corporate fashion state. Even women were treated as it were, passed around. Everything to women.
Wow, unbelievable. Paulie, why don't you take us out if you would?
Absolutely. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. And of course, I know it's that time because your mic starts giving out even worse than it normally does. So, but that's all right. But you're right. It's a conversation that we need to continue to happen, folks. It's a conversation to where we need to listen to each other sanely, have these conversations, call each other out. It's the job of people like myself, stand-up comedians and writers, to speak truth to power. to do it in a funny way so that it's more palatable for all of us. We have to realize we're all in this together, right? That's what it's about. We're all in this together. If we all work together, that we can make it through this next 4 years.
Yeah.
And I know that if we're in this kind of turmoil now, that our country's going to want a real change in 4 years. It seems like it goes from extreme right to extreme left. So the pendulum's going to swing back the other way. Speak truth to power. Be true to yourself. If you've got somebody near you, tell them you love them and take care of them, because it's going to be a bumpy flight. Strap in. Here we go. This is what we're doing. For myself, Matthew, Jerry, and the Zig Man, we are out of here. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll see you next week in the zone, folks.
Love you guys.
Love you too.
Hey, love you too, Matt, Jerry, and Paul.
All right.
Let's do this again 6 months from now. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. I agree. All right, guys. We'll see you next time on In the Zone.